Welcome to Chapter 1, the study of anatomy and physiology. This is Frank. He's going to be our model for the chapter and for later videos that we have. To start off, we're going to say anatomy is a study of the structure of the body parts and their relationship to one another. Also, physiology is a study of the function of the bodies, how the body parts work, and carry out their life-sustaining activities. Alright. Section 2, which is the complementary of the structure and function, is what a structure can do depending on its specification. Things are shaped to let it do its job, such as your fingers and toes, which are used for grabbing and walking. Alright, Section 3 is a level of structural organization, which starts with atoms. Atoms work together to form cells. Cells are the basic form of living life. Two cells that work together form tissues. And tissues can be like the epithelial, muscle tissue, connective tissue, nervous tissue. Two tissues that work together form your organs. And two organs that work together form an organ system. And your two organ systems, or two or more organ systems, form together to form an organism.
Section 4, Organ Systems. There are 11 organ systems. The first one is the integumentary system, which includes the skin and the outer part of the body. Functions include protection from abrasion, protection from dehydration, and protection from foreign invaders. Next, skeletal system. This includes the bones and joints. Functions include support of the body's organs, provides muscle attachment points, and also stores calcium. Next, muscular system. This includes the muscles. Functions include allows for movement of limbs and body, contracts to generate heat. Next, nervous system. This includes the brain, nerves, and spinal cord. Functions include responds to internal and external environment, it responds to stimuli, carries messages, stores information, and also helps maintain homeostasis. Next, endocrine system. This includes the glands, testes, ovaries, and pancreas. This produces hormones. It has the fight or flight response. Hormones help develop the body. Next, cardiovascular system. This includes the heart and the blood vessels. Functions include pumping of blood to the body, transports oxygen and nutrients to the body, and removes waste from the body. Next, lymphatic system. This includes lymph nodes, lymph vessels, spleen, and thyroid. Functions include fighting off diseases and foreign invaders, picks up fluid leaked from blood vessels and returns it to the blood. Next, respiratory system. This includes the lungs. It takes in oxygen and removes carbon dioxide. Serves as a site for gas exchange. Next, digestive system. This includes the stomach, liver, and large intestines. Helps down break food, takes in nutrients, and expels waste. Next, urinary system. This includes the kidney, ureter, bladder, and urethra. It expels waste, produces urine, expels nitrogenous waste, and helps regulate the pH. Last, reproductive system. This includes the penis, prostate, scrotum, and testes in males, ovary, uterus, and the vagina in females. This produces the offspring.
Alright. Chapter 1, Section 5. Maintaining life, the necessary life function. Well, necessary life function is maintaining boundaries between you and the rest of the world in order to maintain life. Well, one of those necessary life functions would be movement. Movement of the blood, movement of the feces, muscle movement. You see over here the muscles contract and they move. Responsiveness, also called irritability, meaning you respond to stimulus. When a person sweats, for example, the body starts to cool down. Digestion is the breaking down of food in molecular pieces. And we have also metabolism, which is the sum total of all the chemicals reaction happening in our body. There's excretion as well, which is removing of the waste, feces, urine. We got reproduction, making more cells, replicating them, or as well making babies, as we have this young man over here. We have also growth. You know, it's the increase of body size of a person, of the muscle, of the bone, you know. And those components make pretty much, those are the necessary components in order to live. For the survival needs, of course, the body needs, in order to survive, it needs nutrients, which it takes in food. As you can see, it takes in food, it goes down to the stomach, esophagus, and supplies energies to make us move. Of course, it's not moving, but you get my point. Oxygen, it needs oxygen to produce energy, ATP. We need water as well, which is, this guy is made out of 50-60% of, his body weight is made out of 50-60% of water, which helps him also maintain a body temperature, and which is for all of us, the norm is 98.6. Last thing that we need, of course, is the atmospheric pressure, which is breathing and gas exchange, that depends on appropriate atmospheric pressure. Without that, we wouldn't be able to breathe. And we have homeostasis over here. Homeostasis was another important survival need function, which is the ability to maintain stable internal condition even through the outside environment changes. So when a person is cold, they'll start to shiver. When a person is hot, the body starts to cool down. For example, the blood sugar level, they regulate. That's one of the examples of homeostasis. One of the components of a regulatory mechanism of the homeostasis is the receptor, which receives the info and monitors whatever variables try to maintain homeostasis regulations and sends it to the control center. Now, the control center over here decides what to do about the incoming info and sends it from the receptor, sends it to the effector. Now, the effector changes the value that is being monitored. So, a good example, for example, would be when a person starts sweating and starts to do exercise, the body starts to heat up, and this is the first receptor that they get. They get the signal. What control center does, it receives the signal that the body is hot, and it will start to decide what to do with it, and the body will start to cool down, and which will give this effect of the body that cools down and keeps it to a normal, stable temperature. And this is why we sweat. We have two methods of homeostatic regulations. We have positive feedback loops and negative feedback loops. The positive feedback loops, they act to increase the stimulus. For example, during childbirth, positive feedback loops comes in because it produces more oxytocin in order to contract more the uterus till the baby comes out. On the negative feedback loops, it acts against the stimulus. So, example, just like I mentioned before, when it's hot outside, body tries to cool down, and most of the body uses negative feedback loops. Well, now we come to the part of the language of anatomy, which we will show some of the directional terms used in anatomy. We have, as you can see, the superior, which is the above, or we could say above, which is, for an example, we could say the head is superior to the abdomen. This is what is the definition for superior. We have inferior, which would be below, and a good example would be the navel, get it over here, or the belly button as you would call it, is inferior to the chin, which is inferior to the chin. And then we have the anterior. Anterior is front, pretty much, will be what would say the chest is anterior to the spine. So you can see chest is anterior to the spine. We have the posterior term, which is spine is posterior to the chest. Then we have medial. Medial is right down the middle. Where we would say a term used for medial will be when we would say the heart is medial to the arms. When we have lateral, which is the opposite, the lateral is the arms are lateral to the heart. And then we have also intermediate, which is between a more medial and a more lateral. So for example, we say the collarbone is intermediate between the breastbone and the shoulders. We have also two different terms that we use to determine if it's a proximal or distal. Proximal means that it's closer to my body than, for example, my elbow is proximal to my wrist. As you can see, my elbow over here is proximal to my wrist, is closest to my wrist. And then instead, if we say distal, will be farther away from my body. So we will put an example of my knee is distal to the thigh. We have also superficial and deep, anatomical term. Superficial is when it's toward my body surfaces, so the skin. And when we say deep, is when it's away from the body surfaces, so it will be in the in the viscera, it will be inside my lung, the stomach. And that concludes one of the anatomical terms. So when we come down to the body plane dissection, this is another very important topic to know, that we have different sections, such as we could say with the mid-sagittal plane, which is the middle. There is a mid-sagittal plane is when it's a cut through the middle over here, goes down all the way. We have a perisagittal. Perisagittal is near a mid-sagittal. It's near the mid-sagittal cut. So the perisagittal.
Body cavities. First part includes the dorsal body cavity, which is dorsal meaning posterior, so the back. This includes the cranial cavity, where your brain is located, and the vertebral cavity, where your spinal cord is located. Next part, ventral body cavity, which is going to be the anterior, which is the front. Thoracic cavity is everything above the diaphragm. This includes the pericardial cavity, which is the location of the heart. It also includes the visceral pericardium and the parietal pericardium. Next, mediastinum is part of the thoracic cavity as well. It is the area located at the center of the chest. Next is we have the two pleural cavities, which is the left and the right. This is where the lungs are located. This includes the visceral pleura and the parietal pleura. Abdominal pelvic cavity. This is everything below the diaphragm. This includes the abdominal cavity and also the pelvic cavity. The abdominal cavity includes the visceral peritoneum and the parietal peritoneum. The pelvic cavity includes the visceral peritoneum and the parietal peritoneum. There are 9 abdominal pelvic regions. This includes the right hypochondriac region, the right lumbar region, right iliac region, the epigastric region, umbilical region, and hypogastric region. The left side mimics the exact same thing in the right side. Serous membrane in ventral body cavity. Structures include the visceral serosa, which lines the walls of the organs, parietal serosa, which lines the wall of the body cavity, and serous fluid, which is the fluid that fills the inside of the body cavity. Part 2, naming. Pericardium is the membrane enclosing the heart. Pleura is the membrane that lines the thorax and lungs. Peritoneum is the membrane lining the abdomen and abdominal organs. Other body cavities includes the oral, which is the cavity of the mouth. Digestive, which includes the esophagus, stomach, small intestine, large intestine, and ending with the rectum and anus. Nasal is the inside of the nose. Orbital includes the eyeball, associated muscles, and vessels and nerves. Middle ear is the air-filled central cavity behind the eardrum. And lastly, synovial, which is filled with synovial fluid.